The silent signal of the galaxy was never quiet. Every star system hummed with the sound of engines, signals, and transmissions. Fleets moved through trade routes, merchants bargained across channels, and empires sent orders that echoed through the void. Space was always alive with noise. But then, one night, something changed. On the edge of the Orion spiral, a listening station run by the Zorak species detected a strange pulse. It was not a normal signal, not a distress call, not even a coded message. It was a low, silent wave so deep that it slipped under normal scanners. Only the most sensitive receivers caught it. The Zorak operator froze. The pulse was steady, repeating every few minutes. It carried no clear words, yet it spread across systems like a heartbeat. And behind it, hidden in the static, was something even more terrifying, a shadow of massive energy signatures. He whispered to himself, "This is not natural." Within hours, the silent signal was detected in dozens of other stations. The report reached the Galactic Council. At first, they thought it was a malfunction. Then the truth arrived. The signal came from moving objects, an entire fleet. The fleet was approaching from deep, uncharted space. And the size of it was unlike anything recorded in galactic history. The first scouts to investigate were from the Velari Dominion. They were proud, known for their disciplined navy. 3 fast cruisers entered the dark zone. Their captains joked, overcomes, calling it a ghost chase. That was before their sensors went blind. One captain gasped as his crew reported readings. Massive objects, kilometers long, moving in formation. He looked at his screen. The ships were black against the stars, their armor reflecting nothing, their shapes sharp and brutal. The Velari had seen many warships, but nothing like. These aren't alien, a young officer whispered. They're Terran. The word spread across the bridge, like poison. Terrans, deathworlders, the one species every empire prayed had vanished. Thousands of years ago, humans were small, fragile compared to stronger alien races. But they came from Earth, a death world, planet of storms, predators, and endless struggle. To survive, there was to become something dangerous. Humanity fought wars with themselves, built weapons no one thought possible, and adapted to the harshest conditions. When they first reached the stars, alien empires laughed. They thought humans were reckless, primitive, too violent to last. But the laughter ended when human fleets crushed enemies 10 times their size. Then, one day, the Terrans disappeared. No one knew why. Some believed they destroyed themselves. Others thought they retreated into the dark. Waiting. Now, the silent signal told the truth. They had returned. Panic spread across the galaxy. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, leaders argued. The insectoid Herald demanded immediate mobilization. The cold-blooded Varric suggested peace talks. The mechanical core insisted on stronger defenses. But none of their words mattered, because every new report was worse. The Terran Armada was not a small fleet. It was hundreds of ships. And each ship was larger, stronger, and more advanced than anything in existence. One counselor whispered what no one else dared to say. If the Armada truly belongs to the Terrans, then no power in this galaxy can stop them. On a small moon, near the Orion Gate, a group of miners felt the signal too. At first, their comms filled with static. Then, their equipment shook as the pulse grew stronger. The youngest miner stared at the stars. He saw them shapes moving in the void, darker than the space around them. Ships, he muttered. So many ships. For a long moment, no one spoke. The sight was unreal, giant vessels gliding silently, like predators passing through a sea of stars. Not a single light blinked on their hulls. Not a single broadcast escaped their comms. Only the signal. The endless, steady signal. Across the galaxy, warlords and emperors suddenly went quiet. They had ruled for centuries, crushing weaker races, fighting endless wars. But now they remembered the old warnings. Do not anger the humans. Do not forget the Deathworlders. The Armada was proof that those warnings were not myths, even the most. Arrogant leaders took a step back. Entire fleets changed course, retreating from the path of the incoming Terrans. The galaxy, for the first time in history, fell silent. Far from the Council, on the bridge of the largest ship in the Armada, a human admiral stood watching the stars. His face was calm, unreadable. His fleet moved without fear, without hurry. Behind him, officers monitored the signal as it spread. One of them asked quietly, "Do you think they've understood the message?" The admiral gave the faintest smile. "They will." The silent signal continued, carrying across the galaxy like a heartbeat, a warning, a promise, and with each passing moment, more alien powers pulled back, unsure whether to fight, flee, or kneel. The Terran Armada had returned, and the galaxy suddenly fell quiet. Asterisk. First sight, the Velari Dominion scout cruisers drifted at the edge of the dark zone, engines humming at low power. Their mission was simple: observe, record, and return. But none of the captains felt safe. Captain Rolth of the lead cruiser leaned forward in his command chair, staring at the flickering readings on the screen. The numbers were wrong. The scale was wrong. Every scan reported mass signatures far beyond what any empire could build. "Confirm the data," he ordered. His sensor officer trembled. "Confirmed, Captain. Each object is 10, maybe 20 kilometers long, some even larger." The bridge fell into silence. Warships of that size were impossible. Even the Velari Dominion's greatest dreadnoughts were 3 kilometers at most. One officer whispered, "They're not ships. They're moving fortresses." The first shadow appeared. It slid out from behind a cluster of dead stars, a black shape against the void. It had no lights, no markings, only a jagged hull that seemed to drink the starlight around it. The Velari. Crew gasped as the full outline came into view. The ship was Terran. Its design was alien to alien eyes, brutal and sharp, built for war and nothing else. It looked less like a vessel and more like a predator. Then another ship emerged, and another, and another. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They moved in perfect silence, in perfect formation, as if guided by one heartbeat. "Transmit a greeting," Captain Relf ordered, his voice tight. "Show that we come in peace." The comms officer hesitated, then sent the signal in standard Galactic code. A soft pulse of light left the Velari cruiser, carrying peaceful words across the void. There was no answer. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The tearing ships continued moving, ignoring the message completely. Their silence was worse than open hostility. Velari felt like insects under the shadow of a predator. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Captain, they've locked onto us." Red symbols filled the screen. Every Terran ship had turned its sensors and targeting systems toward the 3 Velari cruisers. It was not an attack. Not yet. But it was a warning, cold and clear. Evasive maneuvers. Relf shouted. Engines roared as the Velari ships twisted away, breaking formation. Their hearts pounded as the Terran fleet tracked their every move. Terrans still did not fire. They only watched. The silence was unbearable. Far away in the Galactic Council chamber, the feed from the Velari cruisers was broadcast to all the leaders. The chamber was filled with gasps, curses, and whispers. The insectoid Rel slammed his claws on the table. "This is proof. The humans have returned with an army greater than all of ours." The cold-blooded Varric hissed. "But why are they silent? What do they want?" The mechanical core's voice buzzed. "They do not need to speak. Their fleet is the message." The chamber descended into chaos. Some demanded an immediate alliance against the Terrans. Others urged surrender before it was too late. But all of them knew the truth. The galaxy had never seen such power before. Back in the Dark Zone, Captain Relth's ship shook as a deep vibration filled the hull. At first, they thought they were under attack. But then the sound stabilized, becoming a low hum dot. It was the signal. The same silent pulse that had spread across the galaxy now shook their ship directly. It was not sound, not language. It was pressure, like a weight pressing on their bones. Relth clutched the arms of his chair. "What are they telling us?" The young officer whispered again, his voice shaking. "It's not a message. It's a warning. They want us to leave." The Velari cruisers did not wait to test the theory. They powered their drives and retreated at full speed. As they pulled back, the Terran targeting locks faded, one by one, until the fleet returned to its perfect, silent march through the stars. Relth sat in silence, his claws digging into the chair. His officers avoided his gaze, but he knew they were all thinking the same thing. If this was only the first sight of the Terran Armada, what would happen when the full fleet reached the heart of the galaxy? On the flagship of the Armada, a human officer reported, "Scouts have retreated, Admiral." The Admiral nodded, hands behind his back. "Good. Let them carry the story." Another officer frowned. "Should we have destroyed them?" The Admiral's eyes never left the stars. His voice was calm, almost cold. "No. Fear spreads faster than wreckage." And so the Armada continued forward, silent and unstoppable, as the galaxy braced for what was coming. Asterisk. Panic among the powers, the Velari cruisers returned broken and silent. Their crews trembled, their voices unsteady. They had seen the Terran Armada with their own eyes, and the sight alone was enough to drain all courage from them. Within hours, the report spread to every major empire. It was no longer rumor. It was no longer myth. The Terrans were real. They had returned with ships larger than any empire's dreams, and they were moving with unstoppable calm toward the galactic core dot in the halls of the Galactic Council. Fear boiled into panic. The chamber, a colossal ring of steel and crystal, was filled with voices shouting, hissing, buzzing, roaring. Every empire's representative fought to be heard. The insectoid Rel Chancellor raised his mandibles high. "We must strike now. Gather every fleet, every weapon. If we wait, they will reach us, and then it will be too late." The cold-blooded Varick speaker slammed his tail against the ground. His scaled body glistened under the chamber lights. "You fool! Did you not see the recordings? One Armada could tear apart 10 of our navies. To fight them now is suicide." The machine-like core directive flickered in cold tones. "Calculations show less than a 2% chance of survival in direct combat. Recommendation: negotiation or retreat." The chamber roared with chaos. Old enemies who had fought for centuries suddenly found themselves united in one feeling: fear. But in the shadows of the chamber, whispers spread. The Rel, known for their cruelty, whispered that maybe the humans had come to conquer. The Virak muttered that maybe the humans had come to punish. The core considered that maybe the humans had come to replace. No one knew what the Terrans wanted, and that ignorance was more terrifying than war itself. Across the stars, panic echoed in 1,000 forms. In the markets of the Rithal clans, merchants dumped their cargo and fled. On the war moons of the Sur Empire, soldiers whispered about Deathworlders in their barracks. In the icy throne halls of the Velari Dominion, rulers who had mocked humanity centuries ago now fell silent, remembering old warnings. Everywhere, old rivalries crumbled. Warlords who had crushed planets hesitated to even move their fleets. It was as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Meanwhile, on a mining colony at the edge of council space, ordinary workers gathered around broken radios, listening to fragments of news. Is it true? One miner asked. They say the humans are back, with ships the size of cities. Another miner laughed nervously, but his voice cracked. If it's true, then maybe the galaxy's bullies will finally get what they deserve. The laughter faded. They all remembered stories told by their grandparents, how humans never fought fair, how they turned weakness into strength, how they never, ever surrendered. In the council chamber, the panic reached its peak. The Rel Chancellor slammed his claws. If we kneel now, we are already slaves. The Varric speaker hissed back. And if we fight, we are already dead. The core directive spoke again, its voice like grinding steel. Analysis complete. There is no good outcome. Only the least terrible one. The chamber went silent. Every eye turned to the core machine. Then what is the least terrible outcome? One counselor demanded. The core's eyes glowed. Wait, watch, hope that they pass us by. But hope was weak. The Terran Armada was not wandering. It was moving. With purpose. And then came the message. Not words, not speech. Just the same silent signal, spreading deeper, louder, heavier. It echoed through every channel, rattling every sensor, pressing into the bones of every creature that heard it. A heartbeat. A steady, endless heartbeat. The galaxy listened. And the galaxy trembled. In a private chamber far from the council. An elder alien advisor leaned close to his ruler. His eyes were tired, his voice quiet. Do you not see? This is no invasion. This is a test. They are showing us they can destroy us without firing a shot. The ruler swallowed hard. And if we resist, the elder closed his eyes. Then, the galaxy burns. Across the void, in the flagship of the Armada, the human admiral received the latest reports. Scouts had fled. The council was in chaos. Fear was spreading exactly as planned. The admiral turned to his officers. Good. They are panicking, and panic makes them weak. He looked out into the endless dark, where alien empires hid behind. Their fleets, too afraid to move. The admiral's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of iron. Let them fear. When we speak, they will listen. And so the Armada pressed forward, silent, massive, unstoppable, and the galaxy's panic deepened into terror. Asterisk, the stand at Orion Gate. The Orion Gate was the heart of the galaxy, a vast structure of ancient stone and metal, built long before most empires even rose. It controlled the most important hyperlanes. Whoever held the gate could move fleets faster than anyone else. Wars had been fought for centuries over this place. Blood of countless races had stained its orbit. Now, for the first time in 1,000 years, every major empire gathered there not to fight each other, but to prepare for something greater. The Rel swarm brought their hive ships, each bristling with claws and living weapons. The Varric Empire brought their scaled war dragons, massive battleships carved from volcanic rock. The core directive floated their cold machine carriers, each one filled with drones. Dozens of smaller powers added what they could: frigates, destroyers, anything that would fly. Thousands of ships surrounded Orion Gate, pointing their weapons outward, waiting. From the shadows beyond the gate, the first Terran ships appeared. They came slow, deliberate, each one a dark mountain sliding through space. No banners, no signals, only silence. The Armada, the alien fleets shuddered as the Terrans drew closer. The ships were larger than anyone had ever seen, their black holes swallowing light, their engines glowing like suns. The commanders of alien navies barked orders. Shields raised, cannons primed, missiles armed. Still, no one fired. On the bridge of the Varric flagship, Admiral Zeeth gritted his fangs. We cannot back down. If we show weakness, they will crush us. His officers stared nervously at their screens. One whispered, But, Admiral, if we fire first, they will erase us. On the Rel Hive ship, the Swarm Mother hissed, we should strike before they reach the gate, tear them apart. But even her children hesitated. They remembered the recordings. They remembered the silent signal. On the core carrier, machine voices calculated probabilities. Every result ended in the same conclusion: destruction. The Armada stopped just outside the gate. Hundreds of Terran warships hung in perfect formation, their weapons hot but silent. Not a single ship twitched out of line. Their discipline was terrifying. Then, for the first time, a single Terran ship moved forward. It was enormous, 20 kilometers long, covered in heavy armor, bristling with weapons. Its bow glowed as energy built within, brighter and brighter, until the stars themselves seemed to dim. Across the alien fleets, alarm screamed. Energy spike detected. They're charging a weapon. Shields at maximum. Panic rippled through every command deck. Some crews almost fired in fear, but the Terran ship did not release the blast. It simply held the charge, humming with raw power, showing the galaxy exactly what it could do. The silence that followed was worse than any battle. Alien admirals stared at the Terran warship, realizing the truth. It could destroy them all with one volley. The Armada wasn't threatening one empire. It was threatening everyone at once. One Velari commander whispered, "This is not war. This is demonstration." In the Council's observation chamber, leaders watched the standoff live. Some wept, others cursed. None of them spoke of victory. Barrick's speaker slammed his tail. "We cannot stand like prey forever. We must show strength." The core directive's voice buzzed. "Strength is irrelevant. Their firepower exceeds ours tenfold. Conclusion: resistance will lead to extinction." "They?" Rel Chancellor screeched. "If we kneel, then we are already extinct." But no one moved. Not one order to fire was given. Back at Orion Gate, the tension broke when the Terran flagship finally broadcast a signal. The silent pulse vanished, replaced by a voice deep, calm, human. "This is Admiral Kepler of the Terran Armada. You stand at Orion Gate. Step aside." The words were simple, but the tone was iron. The alien fleets froze. No one replied. No one dared. The Terran ship's cannon hummed louder, glowing brighter, a second warning. Finally, one fleet broke. The Sewer Empire pulled its ships back, engines flaring as they retreated into deep space. Others followed quickly, not wanting to be the last standing before the Armada. The mighty fleets that had gathered for war began to scatter like frightened animals. The gate was left unguarded. The Armada moved forward, slow and unstoppable, passing through Orion Gate as if the galaxy itself had opened the door. Not a single alien shot was fired. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Kepler turned to his officers. "See? No battle required. Fear is stronger than war." The officers nodded. They had watched empires collapse without a single shot. Behind them, the Terran Armada sailed deeper into the galaxy. And for the first time in history, Orion Gate was crossed. In silence. Asterisk. The human warning the Terran Armada passed through Orion Gate like a shadow storm. Not one alien ship stopped them. Not one weapon fired. The ancient superstructure, once the most fought-over choke point in the galaxy, now belonged to humanity. Without a single battle, the Armada continued deeper into the spiral arm, leaving only silence and trembling fleets behind. In the Galactic Council chamber, the alien rulers sat frozen. They didn't even need to fight, the Varric speaker hissed. His scaled hands shook. "We stood there with thousands of ships, and they walked through us like ghosts." The insectoid Rel Chancellor clicked his mandibles. "This is only the beginning. They are testing us. Next, they will demand our planets, our resources, our submission." The core directive's machine voice hummed. Correction. No demands issued yet. Probability suggests alternative motive. The chamber erupted into chaos again. Fear filled every word. Yet beneath that fear, all of them waited for the first real message from the humans. It came sooner than expected. At the edge of council space, every channel suddenly went dark. Then, a single broadcast cut across every frequency, overriding even secure military networks. A face appeared. Human. Male, older, with steel-gray eyes and a calm expression. His uniform bore no flashy medals, no golden crowns, only the insignia of Earth. Behind him, the shadow of the Armada loomed. When he spoke, his voice carried through every world, every ship, every council chamber. I am Admiral Kepler, Commander of the Terran Armada. You have seen our ships. You have felt our silence. Now hear our words. Every alien listened. From warlords on their thrones to miners in deep space colonies, all froze as his calm voice filled the air. For too long, the galaxy believed humanity was gone. You thought we were broken, erased, forgotten. You built your empires in our absence. You fought your wars. You crushed the weak, and you believed no one could challenge you. His eyes hardened. You were wrong. A hush fell over the galaxy. Kepler continued, steady as a blade. We did not disappear. We watched, we waited, we grew. And now we return, not to beg, not to kneel, but to remind you. He leaned slightly forward, his voice sharp. Humanity does not serve. Humanity does not fear. Humanity endures. On alien bridges, crews shivered. Even hardened admirals felt their throats dry. There was no anger in the human's tone, no hatred. Only certainty. Kepler lifted a hand, and for a moment, the feed shifted. A smaller alien fleet appeared on the screen recordings from Orion Gate. The Sewer Empire's ships, the ones that had hesitated to retreat. The recording showed how the Terran flagship had aimed one single weapon. A flash of light. And then the entire sewer fleet was gone. Not wreckage, not burning hulks. Simply erased in a single instant. The image returned to Kepler's face. His voice was colder now. This is what happens to those who stand against us. The warning struck harder than any weapon. Across the galaxy, entire governments shook. Some debated resistance, others thought of surrender, but all of them realized the truth. Humanity held the power to decide their fate. The Varric? Speaker slammed his tail in rage. They mean to rule us all. The core directive responded flatly. Correction. They have not claimed rule, only respect. The insectoid Rel screeched. Respect? They killed thousands with a gesture. The machine's voice whirred. Yes, that is why you will respect them. On frontier worlds, ordinary, aliens whispered to each other. Some cursed the humans, calling them monsters. Others, secretly, felt a strange relief. For centuries, the strongest empires had ruled with cruelty, enslaving weaker species. Now, perhaps, the Terrans would bring balance through fear, if nothing else. Admiral Kepler's broadcast neared its end. Remember this. Humanity has no desire to conquer your worlds. We have no need to enslave your people. We do not seek your thrones. His eyes narrowed. But if you raise your fleets against us, if you dare to test us, then your stars will burn, and your empires will vanish. He paused, letting the silence sink into every mind across the galaxy. Stand aside. Do not provoke us. The Armada does not repeat its warnings. Then the transmission ended. The galaxy held its breath. In council chambers, on bridges, on colonies, no one spoke for long moments. The signal was gone, but its weight remained like a storm cloud. Finally, in the Galactic Council Chamber, the Virac speaker whispered the truth every ruler already knew. The humans have given us no choice. And so the galaxy fell silent again. Not in confusion this time, but in fear of the one warning they all understood, the human warning. Asterisk the galactic silence. The human broadcast ended. The screen went black. The voice of Admiral Kepler was gone. Yet the silence that followed was louder than any war. Across the galaxy, fleets hovered in space, their weapons hot, their shields raised, yet none dared to move. Council chambers stayed frozen, leaders too afraid to speak. On colonies, miners and merchants listened to empty radios, waiting for another signal that never came. The galaxy, always alive with noise, had fallen still. On the bridge of the Valari, Dominion's flagship, Admiral Relf sat motionless. His claws tapped against the armrest, but he gave no orders. His officers waited, eyes fixed on him, but none dared to break the silence. Finally, one officer whispered, "What now, Admiral? Do we fight? Do we surrender?" Relf shook his head slowly. "No, we wait. That is all we can do." And so the Valari fleet remained still, watching the stars, paralyzed by fear, dot in the capital of the Varic Empire. The speaker slammed his fists against his throne. His scales trembled, his tail thrashed. "We are the rulers of half this galaxy. And now we sit in silence like frightened prey?" His generals did not answer. They had seen the sewer fleet erased with one shot. They had heard the human warning. They knew the truth Varic power meant nothing against the Armada. On the hive world of the Rel Swarm, the Swarm Mother hissed to her brood, "We are many. We are countless. Humanity cannot destroy us all." But her words did not reach the hearts of her children. For even an endless swarm could be burned if the fire was hot enough. And the humans had shown a fire that could swallow fleets whole. The young drones of the hive lowered their heads. The Swarm Mother's command meant nothing when their blood still shook from the human voice. Even the machines of the core directive hesitated. They were built to calculate, to fight, to survive through logic. But now their probability cores returned the same answer again and again: defeat. For the first time in their long machine history, the directive chose not to act. Instead, they powered down their weapons, their drones folding into silence. It was not surrender. It was not obedience. It was fear. The silence spread deeper. On distant colonies, ordinary workers spoke in hushed tones. "Did you hear the warning?" "Yes. They said they don't want to rule, but they will destroy us if we resist. Maybe it's better this way. Maybe the other empires will finally stop fighting." Some found hope in the silence, believing humanity might bring balance. Others only felt dread, knowing the Terrans could return at any time, and no one would stop them. In the Galactic Council chamber, no one dared to reopen debate. The Rel Chancellor sat still, mandibles clamped shut. The Varic speaker slumped on his throne, his scales dull with fear. The core directives machines flickered, their lights dim. For centuries, these powers had shouted, argued, threatened, and fought. But now the chamber was silent, not because of peace, not because of unity, but because of fear of a single fleet. On the bridge of the Terran flagship, Admiral Kepler stood tall, hands clasped behind his back. His officers reported no resistance, no pursuit, no signals from the alien fleets. "The galaxy is quiet, sir," one officer said. Kepler gave a small nod. "Good. That is how it should be." Another officer frowned. "They are waiting, Admiral." "But for what?" The Admiral's steel-gray eyes never left the stars. His voice was low, calm, unshockable. "They are waiting for us to decide their future." For 3 days, the Armada held its position near Orion Gate, not moving forward, not pulling back, not speaking again. Every empire watched, their fleets, ready yet paralyzed. Every colony listened, waiting for a second broadcast. Every leader prayed the Terrans would simply pass them by. But the Armada did not move. It lingered. Heavy as a storm cloud, its shadow pressing on every world. The galaxy's silence deepened, heavier and heavier, until it felt like the stars themselves had stopped breathing. Finally, on the fourth day, the Armada sent a message. Not words, not warnings. Only a single line of code, transmitted across every channel. The code translated into a single phrase in every alien language. At dawn, we will decide. The galaxy froze. Dawn. No one knew what it meant. Would the Armada conquer? Would it destroy? Would it leave? Fleets held their breath. Councils prayed. Citizens trembled. The silence stretched through the long night. And all across the stars, every being waited for the dawn. Asterisk. The new order of the galaxy waited for dawn. Across alien homeworlds, entire populations stood under their skies, staring upward, as if the stars themselves held the answer. Fleets hovered near Orion Gate, weapons hot but motionless. The Galactic council chamber was filled with rulers who had not slept for days. The Terran Armada remained silent, their black ships unmoving, their presence heavier than any gravity. And then, as the first light of a distant star rose over Orion Gate, the Armada spoke. Every channel opened at once. Every screen flickered to life. Admiral Kepler appeared again, his steel-gray eyes steady, his voice calm. Behind him, the shadows of the Terran Armada glowed faintly, their weapons still humming with restrained power. Leaders of the galaxy, he began, you have waited for our decision. Now you will hear it. The galaxy listened in silence. For centuries, you believed humanity was gone. You fought among yourselves. You enslaved weaker races. You ruled through fear. You believed no one could challenge you. He paused, letting his words sink in. You were wrong. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not vanish. We have returned, not to destroy, not to conquer, but to remind you of balance. In the council chamber, whispers broke out. The Varric speaker hissed, balance? What do they mean by balance? The insectoid Rel clicked his mandibles nervously. Perhaps they mean domination. Perhaps they mean slavery. The core directive's cold machine voice whirred. Correction. Their actions do not align with conquest patterns. Observation. Their motive remains uncertain. But none of them dared to interrupt the broadcast. Kepler's voice grew harder. You saw what happens when you resist. The sewer fleet paid that price. Understand this. The Armada will not give second warnings. If you raise your weapons against us again, your stars will burn, and your empires will end. The image shifted. For a moment, a view of the galaxy appeared. Systems highlighted in crimson every major power's fleets, marked like prey. Then the image returned to Kepler's face. But if you stand aside, if you keep your peace, then humanity will not strike. The galaxy held its breath. This mercy? Was this restraint? Or was this just another kind of domination? On the Varric flagship, Admiral Zeeth gritted his fangs. They hold our future in their hands. One word from them, and the galaxy burns. On the Rel Hive ship, the Swarm Mother hissed. We could swarm them, countless numbers. Yet, even countless is not enough. On the core carrier, the machine voice calculated. Analysis. Humanity does not seek territory. They seek memory. They wish us to remember. Kepler's voice softened, though his eyes remained cold. Remember this. Humanity is not your enemy unless you make us one. We came from a death world. We survived storms, predators, wars that would have destroyed any other species. We learned to endure. We learned to fight. And we will never stop. He leaned closer to the screen. Respect us. Leave us unchallenged. And the galaxy may yet know peace. The broadcast ended. The screens went dark. The Terran Armada began to move again. Slowly, Calmly, it turned away from Orion Gate. The massive warships glided back into the void, their engines glowing like dying suns. They did not attack. They did not demand tribute. They did not conquer a single planet. They simply left. For hours, no one spoke. Alien rulers sat in silence, waiting for some hidden strike that never came. Fleets remained frozen, their weapons trembling with restraint. Finally, on a distant colony, a single worker whispered the words that spread across every world. They could have destroyed us all. But they didn't. In the Galactic Council chamber, the Viric speaker exhaled a long hiss. They showed mercy. But make no mistake, this was not peace. This was a leash. The insectoid Rel clicked softly. Call it what you wish. Mercy. Or leash it matters little. We live only because the Terrans allow it. The core directive's voice buzzed. Statement. The galaxy has changed. New balance established. New order begins. And so it was. The galaxy's endless noise of war, argument, and chaos was broken. The Empire stepped back, no longer daring to expand too far, no longer daring to crush the weak so openly. For the first time in centuries, there was silence not true peace, but silence enforced by fear of the Deathworlders. The Terran Armada was gone, vanished into deep space. But every being in the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity could return at any time, and if they did, no empire would stand against them. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Kepler stood in silence as the Armada sailed into the void. One officer finally asked, "Sir, will they obey? Will they truly respect the warning?" Kepler's gaze remained fixed on the stars. His voice was calm, steady. They will, because if they don't, they know we will return. And so the galaxy entered a new age, not ruled by one empire, not held together by treaties or trust, but held still, balanced by the shadow of humanity. The galaxy had fallen silent, and in that silence, the Deathworlders became the new order. Asterisk.